Moving to the suburbs usually means getting more space, quieter streets, and easier parking. But it can also mean driving for coffee, groceries, dinner, the gym, and almost everything else. These 5 suburbs give you a different compromise. They still feel connected, walkable, and active enough that leaving the city does not have to mean surrendering your entire city lifestyle. Hello, the name hasn't changed. AD Anant Deoras, 14 years in the game. Real estate professional with the love of urbanism and a focus on relocation and selling. For this list, city-like does not mean that the suburb has one attractive block next to a metro and then miles of subdivisions behind it. I'm looking for places where you can reasonably live near the train, walk to the restaurants and coffee, find condos or apartments around the center, and make at least some ordinary trips without getting into a car. You'll probably still own a car. You're guaranteed you're going to have a car in every suburb on this list. The real question is whether that car controls your entire day. And one warning before we begin, I am talking about specific downtown and station area pockets. I'm not claiming every address in these suburbs offers the same lifestyle. Oak Park is easiest the first choice because it creates the smallest lifestyle break from Chicago. Around the downtown Oak Park, you have the Metro Union Pacific West line, the CTA Green Line, restaurants, stores, condos, apartments, and established residential streets all packed relatively close together. Go further south, and Oak Park also has Blue Line access. That combination matters because you are not relying on one commuter train designed mainly around traditional work hours. You have multiple ways into Chicago and multiple commercial districts inside the village itself. For a relocation buyer worried that suburban life will feel isolated, Oak Park is probably the safest transition on this list, but there is a cost. Homes close to the downtown and transit can command a premium. Parking still matters, and some sections feel almost like an extension of Chicago rather than a conventional suburb. If you want a dramatic lifestyle change, Oak Park may not feel suburban enough. If you want to preserve the greatest amount of city convenience, that is exactly why it works. Evanston is the most urban place on this list, and honestly, it almost feels like cheating. Downtown Evanston has taller residential buildings, restaurants, stores, Northwestern University, activity, a metro station, and a CTA Purple Line within a short walk of each other. Evanston also has additional transit-oriented pockets around the main street and Central Street. So your choices are not limited to one downtown cluster. This gives the buyer a more flexibility in both housing type and neighborhood feel. You can choose a denser downtown condo lifestyle, a quieter residential block near Main Street, or something farther north while keeping rail access. Evanston also has the lakefront, which makes a transition easier for someone used to Chicago's wonderful lake access. The trade-off is that Evanston may not satisfy someone looking for a classic suburban reset. It is a separate city, but sections of it feel fully urban. Housing near the strongest transit and commercial areas can also be expensive. Evanston belongs on this list because it asks the most useful relocation question. Do you actually want suburban living, or do you mainly want to leave Chicago while keeping an urban daily routine? Berwyn is the most Chicago-looking suburb on this list. The street grid continues west from the city. The lots are compact, and the housing includes bungalows, 2 flats, smaller apartment buildings, and dense blocks that do not suddenly feel like conventional subdivision living. Berwyn also has 3 stations, and for this video, the strongest focus is the central Berwyn station and the depot district around Windsor Avenue. That area gives you the train, restaurants, local businesses, and housing on a connected grid. The advantage is proximity. Berwyn sits directly against Chicago, so you're not moving 20 or 30 miles away and then trying to reconstruct an urban lifestyle around one suburban downtown. The limitation is that Berwyn does not have one large polished center like downtown Evanston or Arlington Heights. Its useful destinations are distributed across several corridors, and many areas will still be easier by car. Berwyn works best for the buyer who values Chicago-style housing and closeness to the city more than a picture-perfect suburban downtown. Grange gives you the most recognizable version of a traditional suburb with a real center. The LaGrange Road Metro Station sits directly beside the downtown rather than behind a highway interchange or an enormous isolated parking lot. From there, you have restaurants, coffee, local shopping services, a movie theater, and residential streets within a relatively compact area. LaGrange also has a second BNSF station at Stone Avenue, but the LaGrange station is the location that best supports this city-like argument. This is the suburb for someone who wants a clear break from Chicago without giving up the ability to walk out for dinner or reach the train on foot. But the location of your home matters a lot. A LaGrange address alone does not guarantee this lifestyle. Once you move far enough from downtown, the suburb becomes much more car-oriented. Housing within the strongest walking radius may cost more, and the downtown is active, but still small compared with Oak Park or Evanston. LaGrange is not trying to imitate Chicago. It works because its downtown concentrates enough of the daily life in one place to reduce some of the driving normally associated with suburban living. Arlington Heights provides that suburb that can be farther from Chicago and still build a legitimate downtown around the transit. Near Arlington Heights Metro Station, you have restaurants, entertainment shops, multifamily housing, and public spaces with a walkable cluster. Downtown development has added mixed-use residential buildings, so living near the center is a realistic housing choice rather than something limited to a few old homes besides the tracks. The village has also used pedestrian-focused events and planning around Vale Avenue and Harmony Park to make downtown function as more than a commuter stop. For a buyer who feels more comfortable in a conventional northwest suburb, Arlington Heights may offer the best compromise on this list. You can have a more recognizable suburban environment while still walking to dinner, entertainment, and metro from the right address. The obvious trade-off is distance. You're farther from Chicago, and once you leave downtown, Arlington Heights becomes a substantially more car dependent. This is not a suburb where the whole municipality feels urban. It's a strong downtown pocket surrounded by conventional suburban living. For the right buyer, that separation may actually be the appeal. So which one fits you? Oak Park preserves the most Chicago-style transit access. Evanston offers the most genuinely urban environment. Berwyn keeps you close to the city with a compact street grid and familiar housing. LaGrange gives you a traditional suburb with a useful downtown. Arlington Heights offers the strongest city-like pocket for someone who wants a more conventional suburban setting. None of these places eliminates driving, and none feels city-like from one boundary to the other. The winning move is not choosing the suburb with the best reputation. It's choosing a specific address where your home, train, restaurants, and ordinary errands line up with the way you actually want to live. If you're relocating to the Chicago area and trying to decide between the city and suburbs, schedule a real estate consult with me through the link below. We can compare your commute, budget, housing needs, and tolerance for driving before you commit to the wrong location. And if your bigger concern is what suburban living may really cost after you leave Chicago, watch my video on the untold cost of moving next.